Hey folks, Dean here at Sound of Music in Abbotsford. Had a piano come into the shop here recently, and it's such a fine instrument that when I was explaining it to other folks around the shop, they said I should do a video to really describe what makes a superior piano. So what we have here is we have a Tokai piano, which was manufactured in Japan. It's the finest piano coming from Japan, as far as there's Yamahas and Kawais. This was actually the third largest builder. But they took the European approach to it rather than the kind of approach that the other Japanese manufacturers do. So starting at the top, one of the first things we notice is in the bass area here that each string, a group of strings, has their own little guides through. That's called agraphing. And what it does is it keeps the strings in perfect alignment and also gives the perfect length for the scales. As we come across here, right, we have a really high quality, well-chromed pressure bar. There's no pitting on it whatsoever. And they've actually ground down the point here where the strings cross and get the down bearing to create our note. The pins here are all nickel. Now this piano nickel plated, and they're a reverse blue steel, right? So they're very fine, hold the pin block, right, nice and tight. And if I remember correctly, I believe that they're using a delignite type of pin block on these pianos, which is a multi-laminated, and these pins will hold the piano in tune absolutely beautifully. Instead of going through and trying to create their own felts and so on, what they did is they went off to England and they used and purchased the Royal George felts. Now this was very popular on higher end English pianos like the Knight Piano Company, or pianos coming out of Europe, particularly in the Seiler used Royal George felts and so on. Basically, it's a nice felt. It's actually stapled, so it's never going to curl back up. It's moth-proofed, right, which is the gray systems. It also has the harder core felt. It's a little bit like taking a row of nickels in your hand before you strike the string. It just gives you that much more dynamic. Normally when you use a soft pedal, what happens is this whole pressure bar here will tend to want to move forward. And when that happens on pianos, it creates noise. There's a style, instead of doing that, what they've done here is the soft rail here, I'm just going to come across, the soft rail here actually moves from in front of the pressure bar. And so it's very quiet, doesn't make any noise, and gives me incredible control and smoothness, right, to the whole action. The action was recently regulated so that when we take and we run our hands gently up the keyboard, you can see all the hammers start moving right away. I'm going to talk a little bit about the construction underneath here, down into the bass area. Most of the Japanese pianos or Korean pianos that came were using metal traps. Now what happens with a metal trap is that they're noisy, right? Metal against metal, and it creates noise. Here they've gone to the traditional wood trap. And again, with the soft pedal or the practice rail at the top, they actually run a full galvanized bicycle cable all the way to the top. It makes it for very, very sturdy, but it's also not making any noise inside the piano. The bass bridge is down here where that bass started at the top and comes all the way down. In order to maximize the length of the string, right, what they've done is they cantilevered the bridge so that the bridge isn't sitting, it actually sits up here closer to where we want the sounding board to pick it up at the same level that we have on the other side, where they cantilevered another piece across in order to give a better pickup and a more even transition as we cross the two harps. The piano was made up of two angles for the harps. And quite often you'll hear a tonal difference as you cross through here. Right here you'll find a very smooth transition to the tone. Right? And it's because they've carried that down on both sides of the sounding board and we're being picked up in the same area, maintaining the volumes. Of course, they've lacquered the entire sounding board so that it's a finished, enclosed thing. And just in a nutshell, what it does is when I play the piano, you're going to notice that the bass notes take and they sustain for an incredibly long time, similar to what we would get off of a 6-foot grand piano. We're pulling this out of a 47-inch upright simply because we maximize the entire length of the strings from top to bottom. And it's an absolutely beautiful sounding piano. In a nutshell, that's sort of what we look for when we're looking for a superior piano. Come on down, have a chat with me, being down here at Sound of Music in Abbotsford.